All right, Cyber Traders, welcome on back here this Tuesday morning, May 10th, shortly after 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Great to see all of us live inside the trading room. Mario, Michael, Leda, Norman, Ron, Gene, Bobby, Norman, Phil, Bob, Charles. I'm not going to go through the whole name call like I was kind of joking around just before. Great to see everybody live inside the trading room. Great to see all of us back on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube. Folks, hopefully we get that short covering. I mean, hey, a little pop here on Peloton, a couple of stocks looking to make a small rebound here. But we are hopeful to see that yesterday after such a big gap down, after such a big drop off from over the weekend. And we just never really got it, never even came close. In fact, maybe like kind of heading into the early afternoon, the S&P ended up making a small little dip back up, but it was very brief, very small. And then from there, heading into the market close, even worse, we ended up seeing continuation of that trend down heading into the end of the day. So for this morning, we remain hopeful to see some short covering, but hey, don't hold your breath waiting for that. We have to kind of take it level by level. I would really look to follow whole number price levels on days like today. You could say that for really any day, but for something that are on a day that's much more volatile, today, obviously yesterday, just to say you're more likely to find iceberg orders, larger orders, total number of orders at those price levels. So for right now, at least Peloton making a push up over 12. Actually, there was a resistance not just at 12, but off 1175 on this trade. So if you want to mark 1175 to 12 as a potential support for this stock, you could do that. But the news out on Peloton here to begin, PTON, they ended up taking a huge hit this morning in pre-market. I think they ended up reporting bad earnings, actually a whole bunch of different titles here, headlines. So quarter three EPS was down year over year. And then essentially their sales missed on top. I don't know if they ended up lowering their guidance or their outlook for the remaining parts of this year, but either way, Peloton took a huge hit early, ended up bottoming out. Well, take a look, right off a whole number, right off of $10 effectively, and then ended up making the squeeze really from there. Right away, this goes on our watch list. Just to begin. It's coming off news. It's very volatile heading into the morning, and I mean that in a good way. This stock trades a lot of volume day to day anyway. So, I would assume the spreads to be pretty tight on this stock. I'd assume the order book to definitely fill in after the open. Not to say it's level 1 or 2, though. It's probably like more of a level 3. And even though it's, more liquid, it could be like a level 3 to 4 in terms of how we categorize these stocks. So, for any of our students, at least like Mark and Norman and Michael and Mario, Leda, Ronald, you folks know. I mean, that's how we kind of like rank these stocks in terms of volatility. So for right now, hey, this is coming right back down from that 1250, 1260 area. Looks like it tried to make a push up, but ended up failing to really do so. And we'll look to see if it could hold support around here, that 1175 to 12 range. All right, so we have the PTON trade on our pre-market list to begin. We've actually had a pretty good pre-market, all things considered, this morning so far, folks. Between the EVAX stock, VRM, really, that was the star of the pre-market so far. We'll get to those in just a bit. I do want to recap a couple of the movers that we did catch from yesterday. And if you're joining us late to this week, even if you're joining us early this morning, perhaps, if you were not here yesterday, one of the big talking points that we had was, albeit the market was dropping, that doesn't mean that every stock is going to drop off with the market. And that doesn't mean that there's not going to be any good long opportunities. So, even if the markets drop off today, we remain hopeful to see a nice runner, VRM, EVAX, like I just mentioned. But from yesterday, BWV, another vaccine stock here, Blue Water Vaccines, ended up making a huge run up really throughout most of the day, right? Ended up popping shortly after 10 o'clock there, over 4, took off really nicely up a buck. And then from there, as it rebroke over 5, it made the next leg. So ended up running up beautifully for us throughout, the entire day, more so perhaps the afternoon, but ended up falling off, right? What goes up, unfortunately, comes back down. And what Fausto always says here in these meetings is it'll come back down twice as fast. That's not always true. It's kind of just like rule of thumb. But if you take a look at this chart, you tell me it came back down pretty quickly, maybe twice as fast. So for right now, hey, I don't know if news led to that drop off or what, but it's down 18% here this morning, this BWV. So it's a no go for today, but it was a great runner that we had from yesterday. So we had the BWV trade, and then really, I will say, aside from that, we did have a couple of decent pops and drops, or pops, I should say, more from the morning. I think it was the SOPA stock that we had from pre-market, SOPA. Another one that ended up just dropping off shortly afterwards, though. Ended up making a pretty good move. It was more across the morning, like you can see here. Just kind of get the full view here for you. Ended up, running in pre-market pretty early prior to the open. Popped at 9 o'clock during this very meeting. So hopefully, like I said just before, hopefully we can catch a nice pop here coming up. But ended up continuing, stalled out a bit, but ended up bottoming out right around 240, 235, and then ran back up for us heading into the early afternoon. So not the greatest look, but it was up big in pre-market, made a really good push, in pre-market, but it did make a nice little move for us here heading into the late morning, early afternoon. Again, though, what goes up comes back down. This one down, nearly 8.5%. So, for right now, definitely a no-go for this SOPA trade for this morning. Then we had one more, but this one was more of a bust, after the open altogether. It was more of a pre-market one, if anything. But the BTTX, you guys remember BTTX from yesterday? It was more pre-market one, I want to give this a little, shine. Ended up popping here after 7 o'clock. Ended up continuing up for us after 8, and then into the open. It did pop at first, but then shortly after that first pop, it ended up beginning to pull back. So we kind of wrote this one off earlier than the others, at least. But again, I don't know. This one's actually up 3+%, so it's actually stronger this morning compared to the others. I'll write it down just on the side list. Just kind of come back to it if we need to at the end. All right, so hopefully we catch a nice runner at least today, right? Even if we do see continuation across the market. So, let's go across the percent gainers list and percent losers lists really quickly for Grant, for Michael, for Norman, for Mark, for all of our students live inside the Cyber Group room. Today's Tuesday, right? What do we got going on today? Tuesday, a little housekeeping here in between. 11 o'clock every Tuesday morning. Traders Talk, right? So really quick, of course, for all of our, returning students like Lori and Wayne and Leda and Michael, Chris, you folks all know that already, right? I loaded that question up. But for any of our new students or even, trial members kind of testing our room out for the week, we're conducting a live workshop right here inside our live trading room this morning. So long as you could hear this voice right now in our live trading room, you have access for all of us on social media. You can go right down to the link on the blue banner below. But if you wanted to send over any questions, any trades that you wanted to go over with us, send it over to my email address, josh@ctutrading.com. I'm just talking to all of us live inside the trading room specifically. So we'll begin that right at 11 o'clock Eastern time right here. All right, so with that said, maybe we'll go over BTTX from pre-market at least. We'll see. But let's go across the percent gainers and losers lists here. We'll see what else we can put on our watch list for the morning. Oof, another buyout. I'm not even going to ask you folks this time. It's a buyout. All right, not a buyout. VRM. VRM, I don't think there's any news on this stock. I haven't seen any fundamental or any actual news that came out on this stock this morning. So that leads me to believe it's just naturally a short squeeze. And well, if you take a look at the daily chart, we can't really make too many assumptions in this trading world that we live in. And with that said, even if I'm technically wrong, that's all right. I can make a good assumption here. Without any news, this is just a natural short squeeze. How much this stock dropped off, not only back from late March, early April. Look how much the stock dropped off back from late 2020. It was a $70 stock. Actually, that doesn't even reflect 70. It was a $70 stock back in 2020. See? So the more stock drops like that, this consistently over time, again, don't hold your breath waiting for the short squeeze. But when you wake up one morning and you see a stock like this up X number of percent, you could do a little assuming there and say it's just a short squeeze. So for right now, hey, this one looks great, although it's kind of pulling back down a little bit on the intraday. Easily enough, we'll put this on our watch list. But for right now, I would definitely keep your eyes out on a resistance, not just off the whole numbers like I was kind of saying before in Peloton. But right now, your new resistance, it didn't pop up until just now, but at 180, you have a 49 or 50,000 share iceberg currently sitting on the ask. So that should be resistance so long as that remains there, so long as that doesn't get pulled. And then otherwise, I would look for perhaps some support, not just off 150, but off like a 147-ish. 147, we had a lot of volume filled from pre-market early on this morning for the VRM. All right, so VRM goes on our list here. EVAX, EVAX. Mike says that the VRM thinks it was an earnings play. I didn't see the news on that. I thought, all right, well, I was wrong on this at least. I thought EVAX was earnings. It's not. This is more like phase 1, phase 2 clinical trial news that came out. Looks like EVAX says that they've successfully produced all batches of personalized cancer immunotherapies for all patients enrolled in the phase 1/2A clinical trial. Blah blah blah. All right, well, it sounds like a nice headline. I'm no scientist. I'm no I have nothing to do with vaccines. Let's just put it that way. It's just to say that in terms of the biotech world, I know that phase 3 is a lot more important than phase 1 or 2. So for this to be up 35% right now, is it possible for it to run up more? Yeah. Is it possible for it to do what it did back in October of last year, looking at the daily chart? Yeah. So you need to be really careful at this point, folks. It's already dumped back down quite a bit from the initial pop. Hasn't even tested 3 support yet. So, for right now, I'll put this on our list. A little reluctant though, because I feel like this could just continue to dump off afterwards. But we'll see what happens here. Very active at least, and it will be tradable after the open by all measures. So, we'll see what this could do. DRE, it is pretty expensive. Duke Realty, interesting. Yeah, not really doing a whole lot for me here. KXIN, I mean, same to be said here as I just said on EVAX, right? But this one just a lot less volatile. This one just more liquid, much slower moving. It will be tradable after the open by all means, but it's just flat. It's been really flat since like pretty much 8 o'clock. It's dropping off from the initial run up that it had or pop. So, I'll tell you what. I mean, let's just keep going down the list right now. I'll write this at least on the side. CLOV, also, I was a little disappointed in early in pre-market. I didn't even put this on the pre-market watch list, I believe. So, hey, this one I was hopeful for, but just never really ended up finding any sort of legs to push up. Oh, that's right. Actually, I'm looking at the list right now. Clove, I did put on there early, but I put it like at the back end. It goes to show I wasn't as interested in Clove as I was on, the others. But, here it just really hasn't done anything since. Maybe you could say up until now. Right now you could say it's trying to eke up a tiny amount here. So Clover Health Investments, we're familiar with this one at least. And, like KXIN, it wouldn't hurt us to put this on the list. But unlike KXIN, at least this has like some sort of, move up to it here. So that's the difference there. I'll put this one on the main list. All right, we keep it going. We keep it pushing. A couple of ETFs here, not the UVXY or whatnot, but LABU and then the cold. So this is a Biotech ETF, bullish, triple leveraged. This is the opposite of LABD. When you hear Fausto talking about LABD, LABU, this is the bullish version of that. So this is pushing up pretty nicely, perhaps indicative of how the markets could play out today. Hopefully indicative of how the markets could play out today. But hey, you know what? I'll put this one on our watch list. We normally don't focus on ETFs as often here, but when something like this is up as much as it is, and it's very liquid, and more than that, it's just within our price range. Definitely, I feel like we should consider it more. You could say the same on cold, and I had cold on the watch list yesterday afternoon. All right, so I'm not going to put any more than those two, at least, on our list as far as the ETFs. But let's see if there's anything else to wrap up the gainer side of things here. Another one that popped in pre-market. This one I was pretty disappointed by. The STIM trade ended up popping. You could just see the chart. I mean, you're just going to move away from it. But, geez, I mean, this thing just popped, it dropped, and then, a little flat now. But there's better lookers out there heading into the open, folks. Let's just put it that way. There's better stocks to consider than this as of right now. If this finds more legs after the open and it ends up making a better move, then or another run up perhaps, then we'll be there to try and follow it. Party City, last one here. I thought I forgot one. So Party City, we ended up seeing them get crushed yesterday. I thought that was off of bad earnings, if anything. Ended up dropping off quite a bit for bad earnings. But is it possible for this to, dead cat bounce today? It is. I mean, it's already up 7+% from yesterday's close. So maybe after the open, it can make another dip, and then we see a little short covering. It's down enough from yesterday for me to consider, a nice move up for today. So I don't mind at least slipping this on our list. It looks pretty flat right now, I will say that. But it's more in the sense of after the drop off, you would look for at least some sort of move back up. So it'll be a temporary bounce, if anything, but that's what I'll watch there. All right, let's hop on over to the losers list, folks. A lot of stocks down big. So obviously the markets, although, maybe pushing up, here in pre-market off the lows, ended up continuing to drop off from yesterday afternoon into the pre-market this morning. So not just that, but you have just stocks reporting, earnings themselves and down big. Upstart down, over 55% currently. Made a hell of a bounce from 31. So, hey, right away, I'll put this on our watch list. More of like a level 4 to level 5 stock, if we're being honest. And I say that more off like the liquidity. It is like a $34 stock now. It went from like 80 or 75 down to 31. So, just given the range, this will definitely be more volatile, after the open as it is now. So, Upstart we'll put on our list, but not for like level 1 or 2 or 3 traders, really. The BHC trade, Bausch, ended up taking a huge hit here today, huge hit here the last few days. Wow, they've got crushed on the daily chart here. From 22 down to 8 over the last, 2 weeks? So that begs you to ask, when is it going to bounce? But, I mean, this is down so much here in pre-market that my belief is that there had to have been news out for this stock this morning. So what, they were just getting drilled prior to earnings, then the earnings came out. Yep, let's see. Looks like their sales ended up missing, and then the earnings also. And then I think that they ended up lowering guidance too. So with that, that's the bigger, takeaway from the earnings report normally. So huge drop off here today, albeit it's pretty flat right now. It's down enough where I'll definitely slip this on our list. The BHC trade. Gdrx, this one trying to make a dead cat bounce right now early on. So, looks like it kind of bottomed out right off of like 615-ish, maybe 630-ish, then ended up bouncing back up pretty nicely. So, right now at least, hopefully this can continue. But when we talk about a dead cat bounce, folks, just keep in mind that we're not expecting the bounce to be long-lived or, to make a full recovery. If anything, these dead cat bounces are short, temporary-lived, moves up. So once the volume dies off on this, once the volume dies off on BHC and UPST and maybe a couple of others here as we go through, once the volume dies off, typically so does the stock itself. So that will be kind of our rule for the day. Let's see what else we got here. LDI. Now, this isn't the best looker here for down over 25%, so we'll pass on that. Novavax down big, although they're spiking back up right now pretty nicely. Jeez, that's a pretty big spike. What they report earnings too? Is like earnings day today for every stock. Yep, they ended up reporting worse than expected Q1 EPS and sales results. All right. In terms of just the activity and the volatility, we embrace it, but I don't like to put out too big of a watch list. So I feel like we already have a pretty decently sized list already. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We have 11 different symbols already on our watch list. Perhaps 9 of them stocks, 2 of them ETFs, but you get my point. It's kind of a big list. I don't like to kind of overwhelm all of us here. AFRM. This is another one that looked pretty interesting from yesterday afternoon. Ended up reporting earnings, and they're at all-time lows. So with that, that's more compelling of a trade than anything else that we could find. So AFRM, I'll have to slip on our list here too. Jeez, it's a big list here, folks. I don't want to ask, but I have to. If there's any other stocks that are up or down, that 5 or so % that I look for, type it in the chat board. Let me know. Maybe we have to kind of consolidate this list down a little bit. Maybe we pick and choose from this list now. But if there's anything else that looks really good, just let me know. I didn't really see anything too incredible for my side list, so I don't really have a great need to go through those right now. I marked up my Neo chart, but that's pretty much it. But I'm not drooling over it. I like the Peloton trade a lot more. I like the VRM trade a lot more. All right, folks. I think that just about wraps it up. I don't see anything else inside our live trading room. I don't see anything on YouTube or Facebook Live, and I believe that we are good to go. From Brian, he's asking about the NCLH trade. So let's see. NCLH is up over 5%, so I'm sure that's indicative of the other, Air and C stocks. So, it's looking pretty good. CCL up 4+%, very active this pre-market, trading over 1.2 million shares. They'll be on the side list. If you personally do well on any of these stocks that I'm showing right now that are like trending up and moving up pretty nicely, if you're one that does pretty well on any of these stocks, then you should personally put more interest in those. They look really good, but again, I just said it before, I can't put out like a 50 stock watch list, right? So hey, I'm going to start with the stocks that I'm putting out on this list personally to begin. Those plus I guess the NEO, but that's even just kind of on the back burner for right now. So that's my plan. But hey, if there's anything else that looks good, folks, we'll look to call it out after the market opens up, coming up in just about 8 or so minutes. All right, folks, for all of us on Facebook Live and YouTube, I'll just say this here one last time. If you wanted to join us inside our live trading room, especially today, especially for this morning, as we're doing our live Traders Talk workshop there, just go right down to the link on the blue banner below to sign up. If you wanted to just send over a quick question or email first before joining us live, feel more than free to do so. Just you can send it right on over to josh@ctutrading.com. I always like to post my email there at the end of these streams. All right, for all of us inside the live trading room, Brian and Norman and Patrick, Chris and Lori and Michael and Leda and Wayne, I look forward to talking to you all coming up here after the market opens up.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9. Do it.